do like a live Q&A or something just about anywhere. But like I said, this was just strictly a test. I mean, I wasn't going to do anything major tonight unless you all had questions now. But you guys were ill prepared. So was I, really. But I'm glad to hear that the audio sound is coming through pretty good. Like I said, I'm just using the built-in microphone on my laptop, so I've not actually had to give, I've not had a chance to give these mics a real chance. And maybe you guys can answer a question for me, but I've been having problems. I'm on the new MacBook Pro. I've tried running a microphone into the headphone jack, but I'm thinking that it doesn't work. I'm almost sort of wondering if the new MacBook Pros, if the headphone jack is strictly audio out, and that's only audio out. Can anyone confirm or deny that? But other than that, everything else seems to look pretty good. Ah, you guys gave up Macs? Don't do that. You know what? I bet you anything that I should be able to hook up an external like USB mic. All I'd have to do is just convert it over to USB-C Thunderbolt, and I should be able to get that to work pretty good. But if the audio already sounds decent, you know, on the laptop, then I'm not going to concern myself with it too much. And I've also seen I can actually check like audio meters and stuff, and I'm hitting right at about negative 6 decibels the entire time when I'm talking normally. And I'm not really sure why I need these headphones on, because it's not like we're going back and forth or anything. But yeah, the audio would probably be a little bit better if I had a better mic or something. But if this ends up turning out pretty good, that is one less piece of gear that I have to drag around with me or something. If I ever wanted to do these, like if I go to another press event, you know, for Sony or Panasonic or somebody like that, this would be perfect. This is a simple, easy, lightweight setup. Oristic says, I only use USB microphones on the Mac. Back in the day, normal mics didn't work like they did on PCs. Yeah, and I can remember, too, that PCs almost always had, what was it? They had both an in jack and for your mic, and then an out jack for your headphones. But generally, on a Mac, if you have the 3 rings on the plug, TRRS plug, it would always work just fine. And I do have a small lavalier set. I've actually got several lavaliers that are made for cell phones, and I even tried plugging those up into this laptop, and I couldn't get any of those to work. So if there's, you know, something wrong, or maybe I'm just doing something wrong, then I need to get that figured out. And like I said, that would also be if I did want a whole lot better, clearer audio, then I could just take one of those with me. But I've got to get that situation figured out first. But if this really is as good as I hope it is, then I won't take anything. The only time it would probably come in handy is in like if I was to do something in a restaurant or something like that. Where the noise level will be a little bit higher. So on occasion, it looks like my app CPU usage is going up to roughly 75 to 80%. And that's quite a bit of CPU usage. Of course, encoding is not, I mean, it's not like it's not an intensive task. But, by the way, also, for those of you that are actually, you know, viewers of my channel, I do plan on getting that new Sigma lens in, I think, tomorrow. So I might do some tests and stuff, maybe like tomorrow evening, and maybe do like a first impressions video or something like that if you guys are interested. maybe just do a live talk about it, since I've maybe got this part of the way figured out. And I just got in touch with B&H Photo like yesterday or the day before, and I did put in my request to get a evaluation copy of the Panasonic G85, and man, I am really wanting to test that camera out, because if it really is that much better than the G7, then I want to test that out. And I also had them send me the 17 millimeter, I think it's the 1.7 lens, so I want to test that out as well. And I know that I've got a lot of people that go a lot of different ways. Some people shoot Sony, some people shoot Panasonic. There's a few of you that still shoot Canon and Nikon. Most of my viewers seem to be mostly mirrorless at this point, I think. But so I do want to check out that camera, and then I am going to try my best to get my hands on a GH4 or a GH5 as soon as that one comes out. But yeah, I'm actually really excited for the G85. Now, I've seen my own fair share of reviews on the G85, and I mean, they look good. And I was even impressed with the, what's the G7? I mean, it's like a $600 camera, and the images and the video that were produced on that thing were great. But with the G85 having in-body image stabilization, a huge lens selection, I mean, it almost has everything. But the only thing that I'm going to be a little bit concerned about, as far as like, oh man, which one might be better between, say, like the G85 and the Sony A6500 or something like that, is how good the autofocus tracking is. Because Sony is just notorious for having a fantastic autofocus tracking system, and I really like that. And it makes it so much easier to stay on point. But the G7 did struggle with that quite a bit, and I wasn't like just super duper thrilled at all. And if they really have improved the G85 that much, I mean, for just under $1,000 for that camera, in-body image stabilization, that's still $400 less than the the mid-tier mirrorless camera that Sony was putting out, which is the A6500. I mean, it might be a hell of a buy. Not to mention, you would have a much wider lens selection for video and for, I mean, stills is probably a thing. But those cameras, the Panasonic G7 and the G85, really are, they're custom made for video. And I guarantee you that the GH5 is as well. I think Panasonic really is sort of like laser focused in on that market right now, the handheld DSLR style video market. I mean, they're doing a lot of pretty awesome shit. I mean, I can't even get over the fact that, the GH5 has as much stuff built in, like the built-in vector scopes and all that. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, let me read a couple comments here, because it does look like it got them. Spencer Scott, I have an A6000, so do I. I'm still using the A6000. I almost always use my A6000 if I'm going to be doing photographs. For me, it may just be my copy or whatever, but my A6000 seems to take sharper photos than my A6300. And I've done several different tests, and for photos, I almost always pick up my A6000. It's lighter anyway. And as far as video is concerned, the A6300 is just on point. It's got way too many other or extra features. 4K, S-Log, it's got everything I need. Orestic says, G85 looks great. I was considering it as well. Would probably be a wise choice for an enthusiast. Please let us know on the stabilization, as I heard the noise is a problem with the mic. Yeah, that was one of the other things that was a little bit concerning, is that the autofocus motor inside the camera is like loud as hell. So I don't know if I will be able to eliminate that, say by just, maybe plugging in an external mic, or if it's basically just going to be a B cam. There is always the possibility that you could just use a wireless mic setup with it, and you could probably get around that. So, I would just mic myself up with the Rode Filmmaker kit, leave the transmitter on the camera, and then keep the microphone as far away as possible. I'm also really interested to see how quiet the built-in preamps are, because that's the biggest problem with most of those style cameras is the fact that they've got really, really noisy preamps. But if Panasonic really is honing in their skills for this DSLR style video camera thing, maybe they've done some improvements in there. I don't know. I gotta be honest, I did plug in the Rode Video Micro, it's the Video Micro, and on the G7, I couldn't hear anything. I heard almost no sounds whatsoever as far as the autofocusing motor was concerned, and it seemed to work out pretty good. So I'm hoping that that's basically the same situation that we have with the G85, because I do think, for all intents and purposes, that's probably going to be, it's not going to be the best travel vlogging camera. It's not going to be the best photographic camera, but it is going to fill a nice niche. So I really want to get my hands on it. So I'm waiting to hear back from my B&H representative now to see if I can get my hands on a copy sometime next week. Let me read some more comments. Orestic says, G85 looks great. I was considering... Spencer Scott said, I wouldn't mind upgrading my A6000. One thing I don't like that supposedly the A6500 improves on is bigger grip. The A6000 is tight, especially with an MC11 and bigger lens. And it is. But my friend Max Yurev, he has the A6300 and he uses the MC11 on there. And when we were down in Austin, Texas, he had the Sigma 18-35 and he also had the 50-100 on there. And he did say that it was much better on the A6300 from the A6000, but it's even better on the A6500 because the A6500's grip is about 5 millimeters deeper, so it works a whole lot better. So there's always that. Orestic says, for the GH5, I am quite curious if the low light performance is on par with APS-C sensors. I really don't know, and of course that's always my concern, is because I'm not always planning where I'm going to be, or, does the light have to be absolutely perfect? Do I have to, measure, the exact f-stop in order to make sure that, it's going to turn out okay? With the A6300, I mean, really, I almost never have to even worry about it. The image usually comes out so clean. So when you get used to that, most people would say, you have to be realistic. These are, $500, $600, $700, and $1,000 cameras. You can't expect that much. But yes, I can. I'm used to it now. And if I am going to pay that much for another camera, and maybe potentially invest in another system's lenses and all that, I want the performance to at least be on par. There's absolutely no way that I'm going to take a step back. That's just dumb. Orestic says, about the G85, I was referring to the stabilization noise of the sensor rather than the autofocus, but interested in that as well. Yeah, and I've also heard that the stabilization motor is kind of noisy, but if you put like a small shotgun mic on top, like I said, I was using the Rode Video Micro, and I'm sure that the Video Mic Pro would probably reject, if it's going to reject audio from the left and the right, it probably rejects most audio from the bottom and the top, and sort of just focuses on what's directly in front, so that may be a thing. And even if there is a little bit of noise, we might get enough rejection in that department that it might be okay for more casual circumstances. But Spencer Scott says, especially for us full-frame men. See, I'm not a full-frame guy. I was a full-frame guy, but I love the small size and the low weight of the APS-C line. And some of those lenses are still not as lightweight as the Micro Four Thirds lenses are. Some of them are, though. So Yeah, for me to try and go back to, say, like full frame lenses where a lens could easily weigh a pound or two because they have to put so much flipping glass in those lenses, there's just no way I'm carrying around a 30 or 40 pound bag, 2 or 3 bodies, full frame with, you know, 2-foot telephoto lenses and shit. There's no way I could go back to that stuff. So, as much as I like the overall aesthetic, in the long run, for me, it's just not worth the wait, and it's not worth the hassle, and it's definitely not worth the cost anymore. And I get I get a lot of shit because I'm not like this gear elitist. I'm like one of the few YouTube reviewers online right now that doesn't ever sound like a snob. Like, oh, I've got my $5,000 camera body and my $2,000 piece of glass here on the front of my camera, and I like aesthetic. I like the way an overall image looks, and I don't care necessarily about how many lines of resolution are there. I don't really pixel peep all that much. Some people do. Some people really like to get into the technical aspect of it. I don't usually do that. So, I say, whatever works for you, man. Get whatever's going to work best for you. If you like that kind of thing, go for it. But I mean, I've used a lot of different cameras, and I just don't think that my eyes are that discerning. When I look at a picture, I let it move me if it's going to. And I don't care what piece of glass it was shot with. I don't care what sensor it used. I don't care how experienced the photographer was. I don't care, how much they paid for it. I don't care where they live, if they've got a nice big studio, if they're paid millions of dollars to do what they do. And that is probably one of the best things about the democratizing of the photographic industry, coming out with these amazing sensors for these small price tags, giving more and more people access, is that talent is everywhere. A creative eye can literally be in the poorest of neighborhoods or in the tallest of high-rises, so it really doesn't bother me. Oristic says, do you feel the mirrorless cameras are that much smaller than full-frame mirrorless, such as the Sony A7 line? Is it about the lenses? No, I don't think it's that much smaller, but I mean, if I can get the same amount of performance out of a smaller body, as long as I don't find it horrendous ergonomically, then I say why not? There's the biggest problem for me is that if it gets too small, we have overheating issues like we've got with the A6300 on occasion. Some people have reported a lot of that, but I have yet to find, or I've had yet to have any overheating issues with mine personally. So I know that a lot of people want the A6300 and the A6500 to be straight up dedicated video cameras. In that form factor, they just can't be. I mean, there are some technical limitations that prevent that form factor from dissipating heat fast enough that prevents it from overheating. So when you have a company like Panasonic, who does have slightly bigger body, so that it does have a slightly better airflow, better thermal dynamics can be achieved. So I recognize that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's all about what you plan to do with your gear. So I mean, as long as you know what the limitations are and you're willing to work around them, and if it doesn't end up becoming a hindrance to your workflow and what you enjoy shooting or how you like to do your thing, then I say, get the right tool for the right job. I mean, I've got lots of different cameras, so I use the one that I find is most appropriate for me. Sometimes I just use my cell phone. Sometimes I just use a webcam. I mean, I would love to hook one of my other real cameras up to my computer and use that as a webcam because, I mean, these images look like shit to me, and I would much prefer them to be, a little bit more, you know what I mean? But, you can't have everything, so you got to use the right tool for the right job. Spencer Scott says, do you think that the A7 Mark III will make it out this year, and do you think they'll increase the price on it? Knowing Sony, probably yes, and probably yes, maybe. I think the A7 III will probably come out. They might do a marginal boost in the frames per second. I think that maybe that it will finally have 4K. No, I'm almost certain that it's going to have 4K. There's no way they're going to give it to the A6500, not give it to the A7 Mark III. And yeah, I think that they probably will have a slight boost if they decide to maybe put in that. Honestly, I hope they don't put the touchscreen on the A7 Mark III that they put on the A6500. When I was down in Austin, Texas with Sony, we got 3 full days to test that camera out, and I found it absolutely useless. I didn't even use it, really. I'm left-eye dominant, so every time I'd have the camera up to my face, my nose was constantly tapping the screen. And it wasn't very good for me. It was kind of a piss-poor experience, in my opinion. And that's kind of the whole point of the touchscreen thing, is that it is a touch layer on top of the screen that even when the screen is off, it still has the ability to be touched, while your eye is up to the viewfinder, and you can swap your autofocus points. But like I said, my nose was constantly touching it. I mean, it just completely ruined the experience. And it was just like, there's no point to it. Yeah, Spencer Scott says, I wasn't impressed with the videos I saw about the touchscreen, and neither was I. I really wasn't. I did not find it all that useful at all. We went to that, I believe it was in Auburn. Is that right? Auburn. The basketball game. And that's when I really wanted to try it, because as you're tracking your subject or whatever, it would have been really nice to have that function where you could, kind of move the focusing point with the subject as you're moving the camera and everything, just having that whole thing in combination. Yeah, I just couldn't use it. I just went on ahead and got into the settings and turned it off, because I think we had that concert after the basketball game. And yeah, I didn't use it anymore. For me, it was absolutely no use. I would have liked to have seen it implemented in some better way, where they actually had maybe thought about left-eye dominant shooters, because there are a lot of photographers that are left-eye dominant, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. So, Oriestic says, or is it Orestic? Jumping to the topic of the video, is there a way to have a side income as an enthusiast, hobbyist photographer? Do you think stock images is the way to go? I don't know, man. If you like stock photography, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can make money with your hobby. And, I mean, most of the stuff that I do is creative art shoots. And I have, like I said in several of my videos, I've got a creative director, and he pays me. A lot of times he has ideas for art or a scenario that he wants, and he contacts me with an idea. We get together, we talk about it, we kind of plan out what would be the best way to do it. I show up to the shoot, and then he pays me. And then, of course, I do YouTube, so I get Google ad revenue. I make money from B&H and from Amazon sales, which I appreciate you guys clicking on those links for me. They really do help out. And, of course, I get a lot of merchandise from companies that want me to talk about their products on the show. So I get a lot of swag in that regard. And then what are some of the other ways? I mean, you can get sponsorships on YouTube, but I really don't try and do that, because I don't want to ever be sponsored to the point where I have to say what some fucking company wants me to say. I like having my own opinion, and no amount of money is going to change my opinion. So if I really like something, then I will talk about it. But as far as just going back to photography and stuff like that, stock photography can work. I mean, it's kind of becoming a saturated market, and it's really hard to make money. So unless you've just got some big D skills and you're willing to fight tooth and nail in the stock image market, you're probably better off just doing weddings or bar mitzvahs or portraits or concert photography or something like that. You probably actually make more money that way. But yeah, you do have to kind of spread yourself out a little bit. because if you put all your eggs in one basket, you're gonna be kind of effed, and you're not ever going to know for sure if you're gonna have the income from that. So if you've got like a day job and you just want to try and do something on the side, like, you know, like you said, stock photography, set up a small stock photography studio of, I don't know, coins or toys or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could do that and make a semi-decent living. You could also sell your artwork on websites like 500 Pixels. 500 Pixels is actually a pretty good website that allows you to, you know, take whatever photos you have and then just put them up on the website, and you can sell them in their market. It's like a free and open market. So you don't have to sell all of them. If you really like a photo and it's ambiguous enough that you would, you know, maybe like to sell it as art and you think someone would be willing to buy it, you can put it up in the store. Of course, they'll take a commission for it, and they do kind of charge a lot for it, but it's also a portfolio as well. So you can do like a yearly subscription. You can have a portfolio. You could have your own domain sent to that website. 500 Pixels is probably one of my favorite photography websites next to Instagram. I love Instagram. But anyway, guys, I've been testing this thing for a little over 30 minutes, and I think I got it pretty well nailed down. It seems like you guys have been able to keep up, and the audio and video seems to be doing okay. I'll check the stream once I get done, and see if everything's working okay. So, thanks for hanging out and helping me test the stream, guys. And it was actually nice to get to talk a little bit about photography, even though this was just a test. I am going to fix this chat, though, so that it's got like a solid in the background, so that the chat is easier to read. But if you guys are already in the chat, you know what it says. But for those that end up watching the stream after the fact, that's going to make it really hard on them. So, all right, man. Thanks a lot. I'll probably be doing a video on that Sigma 30mm lens tomorrow if I get it. I hope that I get it. I'll be pissed if I don't. But I'll maybe try and do a first impressions video or something tomorrow evening. So be on the lookout for that. See you guys later. Peace.